All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Strange Space. I'm Guest Helen, and bringing you some high strangeness stories straight from the source. I had to go ahead and open up a new space after having promoted my old space because upon opening up my space, we'll see how many times I can say space in this space. It crashed immediately. I mean, I hit start space. I invited Ursula in, and the entire app crashed. So I'm not surprised because this seems to happen every time. Every time I hold a space, there seems to be some kind of interference. So yeah, not surprised at all that the space crashed. I'm now having to open up a new one. So um, yeah, welcome all who are coming on in. If you didn't already hear, my space crashed. So I'm just kind of sending out some invites to people. I know people probably had that old space scheduled, so um, yeah, that's just the way it goes. And I know it's not just me. I know a lot of people have been experiencing really glitchy spaces. So here we are. Um, yeah, send that out. Here's Ursula. Hello, Ursula. I don't know if you heard that, the beginning of that, but did you hear the beginning of that?
I didn't hear anything. What do you mean in the other space or?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, no, the other space crashed immediately. I hit start space and I invited you and then it just crashed. So, like I said, I'm not surprised. This seems to be a trend here on X Spaces. So, yeah, welcome everybody. It's good to see you all here. I'm glad you found this space anyway. I definitely sent out a bunch of invites, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe I can do a little mental gymnastics and send out some stuff here again. Um, Hi Ursula, how are you doing? I have to say right away, Ursula has got like the patience of a saint. I don't know how deep her well runs, but it seems to run pretty deep because I had her doing some mental gymnastics. Somehow, being a native of Arizona myself, I did not know that Arizona actually has two different time zones. So that was a humbling experience. I thought Ursula was actually an hour behind me, so she was just so dang humble and sweet about it. And yeah, that's never happened before. So thanks for rolling on that with me. It's just been a little bit of a bumpy ride getting this going. So I bet it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I was like, are we like I thought we were on different times, Like, thank you anyway for having me here. And I was just like, okay, it's gonna start at 6 because you said it was at 6. And then right at 6, nothing happened, and then Christian started a space. And then I was like, okay, I guess it's not at 6, and it was at like 6:15 that I realized that I think we were on the same time, which is so weird, but yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you were so cool about that. I was like, oh, I'm just so glad this happened with Ursula because she has just been so patient. So thank you for that. And yeah, how are you doing today?
I was actually so nervous that like Christian sensed it somehow and just started a space, and Logan was there, and then Paul came in there, and uh even I saw Kimball in there, and Jay Just and Margie and some others. And I just immediately felt better, like I don't ever talk about myself in a space. I did do intros, but that was in January, and, uh, that was, I think, the first time I ever talked, more than 10 minutes, and, Kimball was actually a good host, like, and just like now, I don't feel as nervous as I did then. I think it was just I was starting to speak a little bit more in spaces, and, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still really nervous right now because it's my story, but I just want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to tell my story. Um, and, thank you to everyone that's in this space. It means a lot, honestly. I was thinking, "Okay, there's gonna be 3 people there," and I was you know, I'm a bit emotional. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Oh, thanks, Ursula. I really appreciate you being here. I value people's time. I know that, like I've said before, it's limited and it's precious. And thanks to everybody for gathering here. I see someone has requested a mic. I'm not taking anybody right now. I think I'm going to open up during the second half of the show if you have any questions. I'd love to bring you up then. Um, Goodness, yeah, man, I don't even know where to start. It's been I feel like just the day itself has been a little topsy turvy on my end. I don't know how it's been for you. Um, and yeah, I really don't know where to start, Ursula. Usually, I guess the question I've asked in the past is, yeah, here, this is where we'll start. When did the phenomena start for you in your life? Okay, when is your first memory?
I would say about when I was 5, I remember, just always, I kinda thought I had imaginary friends. Um, I remember, telling my parents that I used to talk to a man that came out of the closet. Um, I was afraid of this, whatever it was. My parents thought they thought I was maybe just telling stories, and I would constantly say like, "No, no, he comes out of the closet. He's a small man." Um, I don't remember that being's face or whatever it was. I don't think it was a man at all. I had a fear of the darkness. I still do. But my dad said he was sleeping one night and I was asleep on the couch and we would all sleep in the same like space in a big, I would sleep on the couch, my parents would sleep on the floor. My sisters would sleep on the other side, and he said he got up one night to build a fire and he laid back down and he fell asleep, and he said all of a sudden something was touching his hair. He said it was like something was trying to take some of his hair. And he said he didn't like look at it. He kind of looked at it through his half, his eyes were half closed, and he realized that I was telling the truth, that whatever it was that I said that was in our house was trying to take some of his hair. So from that moment on, he said that, "Oh, I know she's telling the truth." And um, I don't know if these were, if they were like grays, um, because I don't remember anything about that except I would constantly tell my parents that they were little. And this went on for a time. I thought I was the only one experiencing these things, but little did I know that my twin was experiencing the same thing through that whole time. Um, I remember I had an experience as I was a little older, and I thought it was a dream all these years. I was, this is weird. I was in a room with all these other kids, and there was these beings. They were behind a glass door, and they would wave at us. There was a lot of children. I don't know where these children came from. I thought it was at my parents' apartment complex in Phoenix because that's what it looked like, but it was really bright. And these whatever these beings were, they were in my head it felt like they were like smiling at me. They were wanting me to be happy, but I couldn't see their faces. I don't know how many times I've told this part, but I couldn't see their faces, and I just knew that they were being nice. I mean, and I'm wondering why were we in that place? I don't understand even to this day. So years later, as an adult, I went to see a healer or a medicine man. He was like my mom's cousin, and I asked him. I said, you know, I said, I want to ask you a question. Is that okay? And he said, yeah. I said, I see these things, and I've been seeing this since I was a child, and I'm wondering if you could give me some insight if what I'm seeing is real. And he was like looking at me for a long time, because that's what they do. and I felt like he was, like, looking just inside me, and I was, like, kinda scared, and he said, he's like, "You know the answer to that." He's like, um I don't wanna say anything more, but he's like, "Whatever you think it is, that's what it is." And I to this day, I'm like, "Why did he give me, like, a riddle?" But, I asked my dad the same thing, and he said that, he thinks that whatever it was that I experienced was real. And, even going back into that, my dad is also an experiencer, so, um, he has his own stories, but he did say that when he was a child, he got sick and he woke up on board something. I can't really go into that because that's his story, but I think I talked to Fringe later on, and she said you might be a generational experiencer. So that was kind of hard for me to accept, it it still is because I don't exactly know what's going on, like are these things are real? Are they real? I mean, I question that every day. So that's when it started, about 5 years of age. I think it came to after I went through a traumatic experience in my life. I was when someone touches you or hurts you as a child, you you go through this period. I remember being in I felt like I was in a tunnel for about a few months. I didn't talk. It was probably it happened around that time. I think it was already happening before that, but you know, um I remember my parents asking me like, "Is she okay? Should we take her in?" Because I didn't talk. I basically stopped talking. When they say that trauma, it happens that way, that's how it happened for me.
Thank you for sharing that, Ursula. I know that's not an easy thing to touch on. And it, for those that don't know, trauma can what's the terminology I'm looking for here? Trauma can ignite certain. Ignite is not a severe enough word, but it's the best I have right now. It can bring about uh, psychic abilities. In a being, especially when it's done at a young age. And I know there are people more qualified to speak on this. So do your own research always. But there is a correlation there. Yeah, and I just want to touch on, I kind of I appreciate almost that I think you referred to him as a medicine man, spoken riddles, because as someone who gets insights from time to time, I understand how impactful it can be for people to receive certain bits of information, and how it can alter people on their paths. So I appreciate that he had the wisdom to help you through that time without giving you too much insight, and putting you in a headspin. Um, so yeah, where do we go from here, Ursula? I'm actually shaking right now. I think as someone who is an experiencer, I feel this on a visceral level. So I just want to say thanks again for being here and doing this. It means a lot.
And thank you. I guess I can go into, as I got older, I would, sleepwalk a lot. I would wake up like in random places, like I would wake up in this closet. It was always in this closet, and I would be like, "How did I get here?" I don't. My parents didn't don't. They don't. They're asleep, and and then I didn't know that a lot of experiencers sleepwalked. Uh, we lived out where we didn't have electricity, so I would always sense things there, and I guess my twin would also sense that, and also my parents. We lived near these red rocks where you could feel like there was something always going on. And looking back now, there is a lot of activity there. There is so much things happening there. And what I heard within the past 5 years is that there's Anasazi bones around there. And I don't know if people know that Anasazi's might not have been from here, that I heard that they all left back somewhere, because people don't really find bones. And a few times I would tell my parents, I said, there's things coming out of that place. They would be like, "Where?" But, like, years later, my parents actually confirmed that, through a medicine man that there's things that I don't know if it's a portal, I have no idea, like, I won't say words out, but, they said that they were told that there's, things that live that comes through the rocks there, and that's why, I'm so interested in Skinwalker Ranch because the area looks so similar. There's a lot of things that happen there that happen to us that are similar. And you know, when you go there, you just get this feeling that you're being watched. And so, just that's just where I grew up. But just coming along in the years, oh, gosh, I'm so nervous. Just coming along, I had my first I've had a lot of sightings of UFOs or triangular. I think I've seen it like 4 times in my life, I think so far, but I remember in 2011, we were driving on the interstate, which there should be lots of people. It's around 2 a.m. We were coming back from a powwow, and I remember just pointing out this large star to my ex-husband, and I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "That's a really bright star," and he was like, "Where, where?" And as we were driving, it seemed to be coming around at a circular, like in a circular. It seemed to be coming from the east, but it made its way slowly towards us, and I realized that, this thing wasn't a star, that, right then my girls, they woke up and they were kinda like, "Mommy, what's that? What's that coming towards us?" And, so as we were driving, we didn't know if we should, keep driving or just let this thing come towards us. And as it came towards us, um, we stopped because it just was coming right at us, so we couldn't avoid it because it was so big. And I told my, ex-husband to stop the car. I don't know why I told him to stop the car. I wanted to see this thing. Um, I jumped out, and I think he got out too. I don't remember what he did, but my girls were crying in the back seat. I had 2 small babies, um, right in the back seat too, so there was 4 little ones in the back seat, and my girls were crying, and, um we looked at it. It went right over us. It slowed down on top, like, it kinda was at an angle, so it wasn't right on top of us, but it kinda just hovered there. And, I called my mom to make sure I wasn't missing time. She remembers me calling, but, we don't know what happened after that. I don't remember a few things after that. All of a sudden, I remember we were on the road again, and as we got to Bismarck, my girls felt really, they felt they were scared, they were really terrified, and I was even terrified. I felt like there was something watching us. I don't know if anyone has felt that, like we were being followed, and, I think we all cried 'cause, it was at that moment that I realized, like, why did I get out of the vehicle? I should not have gone out of the vehicle. Um, years later, that would, I think, affect us because, we all started kinda getting sick. Um my son actually got cancer about a year and a half later. I don't know if it was from that experience. Um, I blame myself. But this thing came right at us. It was not something we could have avoided. I didn't think it was it didn't feel like it was people. There's a feeling you get, like, and it was just like fear. Like I said, what made me get out of that vehicle, I don't know the answers to that even now. Um, when my son got sick, sorry, I was choked. When my son got sick, I think I was telling in Fringe's Space that, um, they were puzzled as to why his cancer. came out to the front of his eye, because usually, the doctors told me with retinoblastoma that the cancer goes into the brain, yet somehow the cancer didn't make its way to the brain, it made its way out. And, even like years after this, the doctors were still like, well, we don't understand how that could have, came out to the front, which he was in so much pain. Like, I mean, I couldn't even help him. And I had guilt that whole time, but, it seemed like something had made his cancer not go into his brain. I don't know how to explain that part, but it's like, I don't know. I lost my faith at that time. Um, as a parent, of a sick child, you kind of stop believing in like God and everything. And a lot of weird things started happening in those rooms. Things would move around by themselves. Um, there was one particular night that my son almost lost his life, and the nurses were scrambling about. They were running around. I never see like 6 or 7 nurses running, and then, my son's fever was so high. He, was, I know this is a bit graphic, but he was, like, literally slobbering. He couldn't, um he couldn't eat, he couldn't use the restroom, and he had sores everywhere, and I was, right there next to him. He was throwing up on me, even though 'cause that's what chemo does, right? And, I was crying and, uh he said, "Mom, there's things in the room." And I was like, I felt it too, I don't know what they were, but I felt them like around us. And he was looking at the ceiling and I was like, "Oh my God, I can't lose my son. Like, please, like, don't don't take him from me, you know?" And whatever they were, he didn't die, but he saw them and I felt them. So when people talk about angels, they could possibly be real because my son saw something that night, And about a year or 2 after, he would see his siblings that I lost. He would always be playing in the hallway, and he said that there's these, 2 teenagers that would come visit him, and I guess he said they told him that they were his brother and his sister, and he never told me this until, like, a few weeks ago himself, he confirmed it. He said, "They would always visit me, mom," and he would be laughing up and down the hallways, and um, I didn't know any of this, I mean, so if there's such a thing as an afterlife, he said he saw his siblings, and I believe him. Sounds sounds weird, but, we never talked about it until now. Um, I think in another space, I said that he also saw what he said he saw Jesus. I don't It was not in the way that I was kinda shocked, So these things happen all along in our journey, like, with him getting sick and then with him getting well. But I believe him. That's just part of our, I guess, our journey as a family. And then going forward, I saw many other UFOs. One was in Phoenix. This was after he got well, about a year after we were going to a powwow, and we left the room. My parents were already there, and we're driving towards Fort McDowell. I don't know if people know where that's at, but it's towards Scottsdale. And all of a sudden, we saw these two column of light right there on the interstate, and people were stopping. A few people. I don't think everyone saw them, but and we were like, "Whoa, look at those lights." We thought they were like maybe I can't remember. Maybe it was the military. We assumed it was the military, but these things were flying off one by one, and all of a sudden they were all disappearing. And then one came towards us. One flew close enough to us. My sister was with us at that time, and this thing was about the size of a car. And so as it came by us, there was a being inside of there, and this being just looked at us, and my sister and my daughter, and we all looked at one another. We're like, "Is that what what we thought it was?" And then it whatever that UFO was, or whatever it was, a pod, it turned clear, and then it disappeared. It like cloaked itself or something. So that was probably one of the first times I saw a physical being, a physical entity. I don't know if it up there, if that was an alien. But I we got to the powwow and we asked other people if they saw it, and nobody saw it, which was so weird because it was like right there on the interstate. So this goes back to, does do everybody, I mean, do people see this? Like, does everybody see? But I don't think that's how it works. So yeah, I have a lot more, but I don't know if Helene, or if you have any questions, or
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, that was already a roller coaster. Wow, Ursula, you have a lot to share. And I sorry, I'm still a little shook from your story earlier. Um, thank you for sharing that, and being willing to share such vulnerable things, because I think that's what really connects us as people. Um, yeah. um, I had a question. Give me one split second. What was my question? As my brain's all scrambled here, in the best way. You've shared so many good stories tonight. Oh, I was more of a comment, really. I was going to say, not to tell you to not feel guilty, because you're entitled to feel however you feel, and that's part of your process, but to just know that what happened with you and your encounter with the ship that came over your family vehicle, with your children, it's just, I'm sure you know, but it's not unusual, and many of us experiencers have done things, in an almost in a trance-like state, not being able to explain our motives. Um, so it's unfortunately it's quite common. Um, and I just want to speak to that, to anybody who may not know that, that's not just you. Yeah, Ursula, I feel like you have so many stories to share. I'm almost like hesitant to open up questions right now, but I feel like we have a lot of people in here and we might have a lot of questions. So, um, knowing that questions can come from all angles and they may not be, respectful always, are you still open to taking questions, Ursula?
Yeah, yeah, I'm open to anything that you want to do. It's your space. I'm here to just, talk about my experience. And thank you, honestly, thank you for letting me tell my story. And like, my story is just one of the many thousands, maybe millions of stories out there.
Absolutely. But you know what I have found over my short, 32 years of life, is that there are many who aren't plugged in the way that we are, and they are just going on thinking that they're crazy. I've met quite a few individuals, and I would be the first person that they'd opened up to because I brought up UFOs casually in a conversation. And these people are like working tech jobs and like dressed in suits every day and like pay their taxes, and like there's just no red flags about them, but they've had these experiences. So I think it is important to speak on it, because if you've been there, if you're an experiencer and you know what it's like to suppress it, and you know what that does to your mental health. So people can come in here and hate all they want, but it's not really for them. It's for experiencers and the people that are curious and open-minded enough to hear their stories. So, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and open it up. If anybody has questions, you're welcome to pop up. I just ask that you keep them respectful. Otherwise, I reserve the right to mute you. Um, yeah, it's a respectful space. We're all as kind as we can possibly be. I know we're all working with different tools in our toolboxes, but we're gonna do our best. So, um, yeah, we'll go ahead and open that up. Uh, Ursula, I was gonna ask. I don't think we had covered this yet. What First Nations people like are you a part of?
I'm Dana from Arizona. Yeah, so but my kids, they're like Cree and Pawnee and Kiowa and Assiniboine. So, there's all parts of their tribes. We try to like teach them all those parts, but yeah, so I'm Dana and my kids are different tribes. So that's that.
Gotcha. And I don't want to speak to your experience. In some of the interactions that I've had with First Nations people, they they can be a bit more open-minded about phenomena. Is that like, would you say that that rings true for you as well?
Yeah, like just growing up, like our family, I don't know if other people do this, but like at our Christmas dinners, our Thanksgiving, our families would all get together and we would tell stories, scary stories. And so, other people would tell, have skinwalker stories, UFO stories. It's really common. It's common to tell these stories anywhere. Like when we all get together. In fact, the last time we told scary stories was about a week ago.
Wow, I think that's a really unique experience that I don't think many other cultures get to indulge in. So I think that's really beautiful because it probably allows for a lot more conversation to be held around the phenomena, and I always think that's a good thing. All right, I see LM has popped up. LM, did you have a question? I want to keep questions fairly brief too, because I have a feeling we have a few coming. So I request one part questions, please. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. No, I appreciate it. Um, in regards to the spheres that have been seen around the world, how far back according to us, because we don't get much information from the governments, how far back do we think these spheres actually were present and have been observed?
Ursula, do you feel confident to speak on that?
Is he talking about like my experiences? I think I've not really experienced I've seen orbs, so I don't know how far back these stories of spheres. I think they go way back. I do know that like people have always seen them. Are you talking about metallic UFOs? Or are you just talking about spheres?
Not necessarily metallic, just in general, orbs of some degree that are non-human.
Okay, like with me, just in my experience, I started seeing orbs in after the passing of my twin sister in 2022. I don't know if I don't think they were metallic at all, but when I would cry, they would suddenly show up. And then I started recording them, I remember when she was, when we had talked about it like a few years before, we would say like if one of us, passed on before the other, we would, kind of maybe show one another like how, that we were okay. And so
Would you be willing to say that there is a certain sort of empathy that is involved with that understanding?
yes, I think that there is. People can say that these things are probably ETs, or I don't know. For me, it felt like it was her. But not always. Other times I felt like they're trying to say something, but I'm still not understanding. I think I've had a download twice that I still don't understand. I've never felt that they were malevolent, but I know that there's others in this space that have felt the same way. I still see them on the regular. I've never felt fear from them.
Do you feel that they're just here to be visually seen, or are they here for some form of empathy or psychological understanding? Because in my experience, I think that this is an empathetic psychological understanding, whether it is realistic within our time frame. I think it has a lot to do with care, concern, and empathy. Like there has to me, and if we're wrong, we're really screwed, right? But I think there is an empathy faction to this that needs to be paid attention to. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely, I feel the same way. When you see them, you feel, I think some people, they sense in, a certain type of way, and I've always, I felt love, um, a lot of the times. I don't know if that's from them or if that's from me, but, I was telling this to my parents recently, and my mom said, "What if they're trying to tell you something and you're not, like, understanding what they're trying to tell you?" And that was and it's, it's I think it's the greatest thing ever for your parents to understand or try to understand you, like, because 'cause they're always like, "Oh, there's our daughter's, really weird, but, we accept her." And yeah, so I think there's a lot of things that come off, uh, when you see these things. There's a lot that happens, I think, when you see these things. But yeah, there's empathy, love, those are the things I felt. So you're right on.
Do you think we control how we see them? Like, is it a matter of adjusting, like your understanding to see them, or do you think it is an impression that they're putting upon us? Like,
I
okay, so let me clarify. Maybe they're there already and present all the time, and we're just not receiving that and understanding what is going on, or maybe it is related to personal relationships and how you see it. So, like, are they there all the time, or are they there only when you're having your own crisis of empathy?
I I think it's all about perception too, and, like, yeah, I think, I kind of, I asked those same questions. Like, I thought, "Oh, I'm just lucky, that I'm seeing these things." I always think that maybe they are there, but, like, a lot of times, when I do see them, it's like they just show up. Like, I don't know if, like you said, they could always be there, but for them to show themselves right at those moments, like when I'm crying or when I'm, having these emotions, because, there's times that it happened that way, but yet there are other times, like you said, that they're already there. So it could be both.
Hey guys, I'm gonna go ahead and butt in here. Great questions. I appreciate you bringing those to the forefront here. I see that VC Smart has had their hand up for a little while here, so I'm gonna go ahead and give them the mic.
Hey, Ursula. Really enjoying your story there and get some more on your background and everything. I think you're very special in that you have this Navajo upbringing that's quite unique compared to most of us who are exposed to this type of phenomena, looking at it from a different perspective. And so you may see things differently than other people will, just because of your upbringing and everything. And I'm just wondering, sorry here, I got to bend over for some to give a hungry Luna her food. Okay, there we go. So let's see. And so this phenomena, you said, you've experienced the orb since 22, and I was hearing something about you seeing the UFOs, or what you might call, I guess, a classic UFO. I'm not sure uh, if you described the shape of those things and maybe when you started to see those, because I was sort of on and off in the space, but did those happen before the orbs? And then how do you do you have some inner conflict or let's say way of looking at the phenomena from two different sides, because us as outsiders, outside your clan and tribe and everything, we see the phenomena more maybe from a techie point of view, or extraterrestrial, outside with the spaceship and that kind of thing. How does that fit in with your feelings? I mean, because you were obviously exposed in our community with that side of the phenomena too, the way other people will talk about it. And I'm just wondering, how does that integrate with your two sides of the v- viewpoint? You know what I'm getting at, I'm driving at. So, and then like how you were exposed with the UFOs, and how do you see those shaped those objects that you've seen? Thanks.
So you're asking me what shapes are these things that I've seen? I've seen like triangular ones. Is that what you mean? Like the shape of these things? Or then I see the circular I've seen some circular ones. I've seen some silver ones. I've seen a lot of orbs, but they're not always the same. I think that's what I want to really get into is these orbs that that people that we the ones those of us that see them, they're not they're not ever the same. And so like that's why I reposted one like a few days ago to show that if you see in that video, we're just outside, and this thing just it was a small thing and it just got bigger and bigger, and it was so bright that yeah, like my phone couldn't do justice to whatever it was. And I remember calling my ex's name, and I was asking him like I you could almost hear me like panic because I don't know what this thing is, and it's like nobody else seems to see it but us, and it's about midnight and it's warm weather, and so like people are usually outside at that time. Whatever it was had so many different colors. Like if you I think it's I posted it from like 4 days ago. So it had so many different colors that I knew it's not human. It's not something man-made. But yet what it was, I don't know. So, just looking back to that, the times on my phone also read different. So that's another weird thing. And I remember going into, I think, Paul's space and telling him and the ones that were in there that my phone was off the time of our sighting. And then the weird thing after that sighting was that I got really sick, like really sick. So that it felt immediately after that sighting, I felt extremely drained. Um, to this day, I have no idea why I felt so drained because it didn't happen that way with a lot of my other sightings. And then just going back into orbs, I remember in April of last year, we're at my parents' house, and these things started showing themselves at about 11, and they were to the north. And we brought my dad outside. As we were bringing my dad outside, like four of them got so bright, and he was just like shocked. Like he's like, he had this like look on his face because he sees UFOs all the time, and he's like, no, those can't be that. He's like, those, they they have to be helicopters, and we're all like, no, they're not helicopters. And as he was saying that, some of them got really bright. So he was kind of in shock. He never did talk about that sighting again. That same night, we got home and we were standing outside. It was about 1 to 2 ish. I can't remember the time. My daughter and I just happened to be talking about our experience from earlier. And as we looked up to the east, there was a giant triangular black craft, and it reminded me of a scene from Star Wars, and my daughter just my 18-year-old just she freaked out on me. She was like, "Mom, what is that?" Like, you could feel the fear in her voice. Like, and I was just like, my mouth was just like, coming from seeing these positive orbs or lights or whatever it was that we saw, and coming home and within a span of an hour that we see this giant triangular UFO. that was just hovering in the sky, and I thought I was imagining whatever it was, and she was like she ran inside, she started shaking, and she's like, I can't believe that, that can't just be up and, above our town." And then we started getting a headache, and I honestly felt fear at that moment too because, like, what did we just see? Because, we can't it was almost like, "What the fuck was that?" Like, how could we see this thing over our town and nobody else is noticing it? And I don't think I looked up into the sky for a month after that, but at that time, like, I remember questioning a lot of things, like, if these things can just show up above our skies, in our skies, what does that mean for us? That do Can we feel safe? I didn't feel safe in my own house. Um, and my daughter was just really shaken up, that, how do you feel when you're with your child and you see this thing, hovering in our town? It was really that experience was not it terrified us. And even now when I talk about it, it's still, like, are we being watched? Is that what they are? Are they watching, us, people? I don't it's hard for me to talk about that experience because it was so big, and it was just hovering there, and again, it did not feel like these things were humans. Yeah, I think humans do have that tech, but whatever this was wasn't that.
Did all of these experience you just described now or after 22 or 2022 afterwards, after your sister passed away, or was it, some of that beforehand? Um,
No, no, there's many, many more before that, before 2022. I think you asked me a couple of times, and you said it was this after 2022. No, a lot of these experiences actually happened before 2022. So I've always, uh, I think, as a family, we've always seen UFOs, not the orbs. The orbs happened later. Um,
yeah, so different shaped craft than maybe the triangular ones or something before 2022. But I think you did emphasize just a few minutes ago, I mean, not this second, but before you said you saw orbs that you associated with your sister's passing. So I assume that's something unique or specially shaped. But you're also saying you see these different shaped things before 2022. And obviously, if your father is seeing things, then that predates maybe even you being born, so that's something in your family lineage. So all that phenomena seems to line up with your cultural background, right? Or your native beliefs. Or have you integrated sort of these more modern ideas like within our community that we talk about? Are those overlapping or taking precedence? Or are you pretty much just staying with your own cultural tribal beliefs? Because I know one of the things I love about your culture is you'll sit in a circle and each person will describe in their own words their own experiences, whatever they're going to talk about, the subject or whatever, and each person is respected individually that way. So, it's more personalized or more unique, maybe from your tribal or circle of, conversation, and it's respected that way. Whereas, in our we're tending to overlap or want to make things the same. You know what I'm saying? Like the experiences, oh, they're all this flying saucer and it's a certain ET from Beta Reticuli or something. You know what I'm getting at? Can you comment just about that sort of thinking there?
um, that those are good questions. I've never really thought about it from, it's because I'm Native American that I'm experiencing this. It's never occurred to me that it was about that. But, just going back into our stories, our Dinesh stories, I don't know how many times I've said this, but, it says in our stories we came from somewhere else. Like, we didn't like originate here on this planet, and that the star people, they help bring us here. I don't know which star people they are, but it's in our stories, and it's if one could go on that, there's when you go into like Native American stories, a lot of natives are healers, and I'm not out to make us like X-Men. I'm pretty sure that most of us are normal, and that we but there are some in tribes, and I think B has talked about this before, but there are a lot of there's there are a lot of stories where, we have like almost like wizard like people that we don't ever mention. And if there is something to that, and it's been given down from these star people, and it's been passed down through the generations, does that make people like also ultra terrestrials, or maybe even ETs themselves? I mean, people don't really talk about that. Like, it just feels like there's like I think I've said to a few friends, like, we're a lot more capable than people think. Like, oh, like I've heard people say, oh, we're like ants. I don't believe that, because there's a lot of people that have these abilities, and I feel like maybe there's a reason to that. And that's just within our stories. That's that we have a lot of healers, and like sometimes I'll tease people and say, oh, you're like a wizard. And so, these people, there's lots of people like that. I think everyone has these abilities, not just indigenous or native people. So it just means that, oh, I think humans are they're awesome. I think that, we all have these things that we can do, but maybe it's just like we're kind of like asleep at the moment. But I feel like a lot of people are waking up, knowing that there's something special about them. And even in this space, there's so many people that are in that. It's almost like like, I hate to say it, but there are people in here that have abilities that are almost like X-Men. And I know it sounds corny, but I won't point them out. They know who they are. So yeah, that goes into our native stories about people that can do these things. And that apparently the star people have always been here. And so like when people say like, are they here? Have we made contact? I feel like people from all over the world have already made contact long thousands of years ago. That's those are our stories. So if you were asking my opinion on that.
Yeah, I remember you talking about, you know, going to some big gathering event that, I think it was an older lady, um, tribal elder, and she and her family or something, had experienced some of these beings, spiritual beings or something, and you all came to a ceremony or a place to meet them, like people in the tribe were going to visit, and I don't know if they brought offerings, pollen or something, but I don't know. People may not have heard that story, but I like that one that you had talked about. Anyway, that's all. Thanks.
Oh yeah, that story. Sorry, that story is real. I was picked up in 1996 by my mom and my aunt. They're like, "Come on, we're taking you out there. There's some ladies that are Navajo deities. They visited them." So we get out there, and when we do offerings to our Mother Earth, we get like a little bit of corn pollen. I don't know if people know what that is, but it's to make an offering to our, to pray to Mother Earth, and like just for good thoughts, good you kind of pray about yourself. But when I got there, this there was a mountain of that. There was a big I've never seen that much corn pollen in my whole life, and I was shocked. And there was buses of people. There was people coming in from all over the world, just to meet these little elderly ladies. And that elderly lady was telling her daughter, we're having some visitors." And her daughter kept saying, "No, we're not having any visitors. We live out in the middle of nowhere." And at that time, the Navajos and the Hopis were fighting over land. So this was people were militant. The people had guns. They were trying to protect their land, but yet they were being evicted from their own lands. So it was kind of a hard time at that time. And so that one morning, there was a knock at the door, and the elderly lady said that she could see all of a sudden. And then her daughter was like, "How can you see? You're blind. You've been blind for this many years." And she said, "I don't know," but she said, "I know that we're expecting some people." So she opened the door and she said these two beings floated into their house. She said they floated. She said they were off the ground by about like 3 feet. And she said they came in and they had like Navajo hair buns, they had like turquoise jewelry. But she said that they were small. So, and then I remember telling my mom, I was like just a kid, and I was like, "Mom, those are not, they're not our gods. They're like, they're aliens." And she kept like saying, "Shh, just listen, just listen." But these things, whatever they didn't touch the ground, and they told them that we don't pray enough, we don't make offerings to the earth. And they said that we need to go back to our traditions. We need to pray more to the planet. We need to take care of her, is basically what they said. And then they left. And I guess they told people started telling everyone. And so I don't know if it was a prophecy of some kind that they said that we should take care of our mother, the planet, and so yeah, I think that's what you're talking about, VC, that story. That was something that really we did see that. So I feel like these were maybe grays or some ETs that came to visit these ladies. The fact that they let her see, they gave her vision back. And thank you.
Wow, Ursula, thank you so much for sharing that. I really love how questions open the doors to all kinds of different topics, and it kind of, they bring out different memories in the one that's being questioned, which really helps us move this along. I hate to butt in because we were rolling so well there, but we are at the top of the hour. So Ursula, I just want to check in with you, do a time check. Would you want to go on for another half hour? Yeah, just out of respect for your time, where are you at?
Sure, yeah, I'm willing to tell more. There's a lot more, but you know what? I'm also worried. You have a child, you have children, so are you okay with it?
Yes, yes, I have. I've put um, all of the guidelines in place for the partner. He's taking care of her, and I think she's going down on her own tonight. This is actually good for us. um, all right, well, Ursula, thank you for your time. Okay, I appreciate this extension. I know we have a lot more questions. I know people are very curious about what you have to say, and you are just killing it, by the way, for someone who is so nervous. You're doing so well. So I see Bridget has her hand up. I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself. And Bridget, why don't you pop on up here with your question?
All right, thanks so much. Hi, Ursula. I'm so happy to be here. And I just wanted to say before I ask my question, I want to thank you for sharing yourself, your heritage, your identity with us. It has been such a unique perspective with the pictures that you post and your children and the family pictures. I feel like I really get an inside look into an identity, a heritage that I wouldn't otherwise have access to. So I just want to thank you for being so open and transparent and sharing yourself and your experiences and your heritage with all of us. I really enjoy it. So that being said, my question is along those lines. I have stumbled across time and time again, all the researchers, journalists, the government, they all are well aware that there is a significant aspect of Native American heritage, many experiencers, many people that have these abilities that you spoke of are traced back to have Native American heritage, particularly Cherokee Indian heritage. I myself am Cherokee Indian. So my question for you is, do you know of, or has your culture has any understanding or myths or any knowledge of what might be the source of this connection? That's what I keep coming back to. Why the Native Americans? I know a lot of the people that worked for the governments, like the remote viewing program, they traced back those people's heritage and found every one of them had Cherokee heritage in them. So it is a well-known, documented, significant finding that Native American ancestry is predominant with experiencers and people that have abilities. Do you have any knowledge or understanding of that you would be willing to share with us? Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Bridget, for coming here. I feel honored. Thank you. Um, I do know from our stories that, like I said, I think that I kind of will reiterate that maybe we are not from here. Maybe a lot of indigenous people, when you look back through our stories, these star beings have always been here. And even when you go into Artie Six Killer Clark's books, they say that, and there was even one story where it said that we are their protectors as well as they are protectors of us. So there are malevolent beings out there, but I think there's also a lot more benevolent ones who have helped us here. Just that's one of the conversations my dad and I had in the course of a year. And he's trying to pick these pieces up. He wants to meet with other healers to go into those stories of what it means, to our people, to a lot of like Native Americans. I from what I'm understanding at my age is that maybe we, like I said, maybe we aren't from here. That I don't think that uh that is one of the clues that I was given. It could be wrong. And I think that Christian knows a lot about this. So he is Cherokee. I don't know if people are aware of that. He probably would know a lot more than me about. Well, I have my stories and he has his, and I think they're all similar. So I don't know if Christian, do you want to answer that part about, because Bridget's Cherokee as well.
Yeah, sure. I might be able to chime in a little bit. Hi, Bridget. It's nice to meet you, relative. um, yeah, I usually allude to B for most of the science aspect of it because she has studied this like backwards and forwards and up and down. Are you in touch with B, Bridget, at all? Do you know who B is?
I do know who she is. I believe we follow each other, but I've not spoken with her directly on DM or anything.
Yeah, I would definitely say to reach out to B because she's a wealth of knowledge about this. There are specific genetic markers, or they would call the experiencer gene, that can be woken up naturally just in normal life, or through very traumatic emotional experiences. Um, so, to get into it a little bit further than that, I feel like they'd probably be best handled with B. So I'd definitely say to reach out to her, and as well as Eric Mitchell because he's a wealth of knowledge on that also.
So many pieces of the puzzle all coming here to the table. Thanks, guys. Thanks for popping up, Bridget. I'm actually going to have Bridget on in a few weeks. Sorry, Bridget, I can't remember dates. It's one of my perks. I have a few. Yeah, if anybody else wants to pop up with questions, please do. Ursula, you've touched on so many different topics. I mean, I really didn't know what to expect tonight, um, and it's gone above and beyond. I see Christian has a question. I know he hasn't had one yet, so I'm going to go ahead and throw him the mic. And I see someone else has just popped up, so we'll start with Christian. Christian, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me again, Ursula. Just so incredibly proud to call you a friend and a relative. You're extremely courageous, and you also bring a wealth of knowledge from a perspective that we don't get to see. So Bridget was very astute in saying that. I wanted to also, and it's absolutely fine if you don't want to answer any questions, as always. But I would like to ask about the experience with your son, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah, ask. I'm open, to answer anything.
So you mentioned with the sighting and with the ship that they appeared, they kind of came close, and then after the fact, your son was diagnosed sadly, and that this cancer actually behaved in an unnatural way, as if it was being pushed outward. I always like to ask people with their personal experiences, um, if you feel their intention was in any way, shape, or form to perhaps take this away, that this thing that happened, whether it was intentionally there or unintentionally there, do you feel as though whatever presence was there after the fact that you were speaking to was there to help your son?
Um, I always get emotional talking about this. I feel like maybe there was 2 different kinds, the ones that we experienced in North Dakota, and then the ones that were there when he almost, died, I think they're 2 different ones, when we go back into our stories and, I don't whatever was in that room with us, I feel like they were there to help, um, I question it still, like, because, I don't it was an experience that I was so shocked by, so, that the doctors were puzzled about it. It's like maybe they were trying to help. I mean, is that even possible, right? Like, when you think about it, just, we live these a lot of us live ordinary lives, and then when these kind of extraordinary things happen to us, it's like, these things must be real, right? I mean, how else can we explain these things? Yeah. And just going back into that, like, I think it was last month, Chris Bledsoe had his space, right? And I was walking there with my daughter, and I was thinking, like, what should I ask him? What is there to talk about when everybody has their questions? And right then, just like something came into my head, and it was like your kids. Ask about your kids, talk about your kids. And it was that night that we saw like 6 or 7 different objects, orbs. We saw craft, like physical crafts, and we were shocked. My daughter and I were so shocked. We were like, "What are these things, and why are they popping up?" Like, and it wasn't even that dark, it was the sun had just set, and my daughter would be jumping up. She's like, "There's another one." And then we were like looking to the south. She's like, "There's another one." And we couldn't even record because I was had my hand up in a space and her phone was about to die. So at that moment, I knew at that moment too that there was something about Chris that was there's truth in his stories. And then this goes all back to my kids. Like, so I asked him about my daughter, my so, I have 2 special needs. So it's, these things, there's probably different types of beings, but those were the ones that we experienced at that time. And to be honest, that was when I got my, like, my faith back that there's something bigger than us. There's something here. There's things that are here to help us, and but yet then there's the ones that are not good, I think. So, I think there's good and bad, and even though people say, like, we can't see them that way, they're not human, but I think with all beings, all living beings, there's good and bad. So I think what we've experienced are both. Even the entity that I saw in my hallway, it was white and it was tall, and it peeks out its head every so often, that I know it's not a ghost. And I don't know if I told about the other thing, that a few nights after we had that sighting here, I woke up with bruises on my arm. Bruises where I shouldn't have bruises. It was on the inside of my arm. No one could have grabbed me from the inside, so that I still don't understand what happened then. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, relative.
Thank you
Love
for
you.
sharing that, Ursula. All right, everyone, if you guys could mute your mics, I'm gonna try and remember who was on here first as far as questions go. Um, I think that UFO intros was the first to have requested with their hand up. I know VC Smart, you had your hand up. I want to recognize that just out of respect for you, but you did already ask a few questions, so I'm gonna hand the mic off. Um, let a few new minds come on in. All right, UFO intros, it's all yours.
Thanks, Illumination. And Ursula, this is awesome as usual. Um, I've never asked anyone this question before, and it might be challenging, but you can take maybe a second to think about it. Given just all the experiences you've had, and maybe also your culture, do you feel like there's something about the phenomena that maybe a lot of people miss, right? Like maybe something you've mentioned before, but maybe people just haven't. I mean, it's a hard question for several reasons, but one of it obviously is we don't know a lot about what the phenomena is, and that's part of the whole ball of wax, I guess. But like just any distinct insights or impressions you've had from your experiences that you think people haven't thought about or don't think about enough, at least.
Could you repeat that last part? I think it went out on my end. Sorry.
Oh, just basically, like, is there anything about the phenomenon? Maybe it's something we've heard before, but you feel like is distinctly important, something to be emphasized that doesn't get emphasized enough, or that people maybe miss when they're talking about the phenomenon or thinking about it.
I could answer that in a lot of ways. I think what I'm learning is that there's something bigger than us. Um, I mean, that is what I get when I sense some of these things. And I think a lot of times it feels like they're not here to harm us. But yet, like I said, I've also had experiences with maybe the bad ones. I do know that, like, the orbs, when I was sitting there one time and I saw them, and I had this image of these different layers of reality. Like, it showed me that, and I still don't understand what that meant. So, like, I think, like I said, sometimes they're giving me images that I'm trying to still understand. For me, a lot of times that's why I love spaces. That's why I love talking to everyone. I don't A lot of times for me it doesn't make sense, and I'm trying to make sense of it. And I think that's what these things, they're bringing us together. Maybe that's what it's doing. Maybe we're all coming together for a reason. You know what I mean? There's so many people in here that are amazing. Like, when you look around, it's like maybe like I said, it's bigger than us, it's bringing us together, it's waking people up. Um, so I think that there is a reason behind all of it. I mean, from my perspective, the for me, like, I'm still trying to understand. That's why I ask, like, people questions. So, like, your question is a little bit, I'm trying to think about, like, the right words, but I don't feel like there's any right words because I'm still like, if you see my bio, it says part-time experiencer, but I don't know if I don't think I'm a part-time experiencer, like, so it that's a hard question, because I'm still trying to make sense of everything to myself, you know?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great answer, really. Thank you, Ursula.
Thank you, UFO intros. Was a good question, and Ursula, I think you answered it well. Just, I think that you were next in line. Behind you was Bucky Joe. That's fun to say. All right, yeah, Just, you've got the mic.
Thank you. Hi, Urs. Thanks for coming up and talking with us and being brave. Um,
That's
I want to ask, do you feel as if these experiences give you a broader perspective and give you strength in a weird way? Um, like, do you get anything from these experiences? Does it feel like it's expanding your soul, or like giving you knowledge, or maybe like, I don't know, maybe you can understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Yeah, like, I feel like every person in this room has their own journey, their own story, like, every single one of us has things happen to them, even you, like, you tell me, like, and I think, like, she doesn't know she's an experiencer. So, yeah, like, what a lot of these experiences, I felt like it's humbled me because, when you go through hard times with loved ones, or, when things happen to your children, or, like, in my twin is gone. She also was an experiencer. It humbles you in the saddest, in the most beautiful ways. I think it makes you more aware of the people around you. You become more aware of, like, when you go into places, like, it allows you to be more kind. It allows you to feel people's feelings more. I think that's what it's teaching me. Like, I try to never hurt people's feelings. I try to be a better mom. I try to I'm I'm so uh thankful for my kids. I want to be a better, I think, human. I think that's what it's teaching. It has taught me, so far. I think that has a lot to do with it, I feel like. I don't know if anyone else feels like that.
Yeah, like I feel like um, every experience I have, instead of, making me want to hurt someone, it gives me empathy, you know? Um, Some people, I think sometimes they do the opposite, but I think it gives you empathy. And it also, because of the experiences you go through, as Christian was saying, it opens you up to other people's emotions and allows, like, I can empathize and feel what the other person's feeling when they're going through it. And it bothers me too. So I think that's a richness that not everyone has. And some people see it as a weakness. I see it as strength. I was wondering if you saw it as a strength too.
I think I didn't before. Um, but just getting older, I feel like maybe it is, I was always the type that brought home animals, so I think it's just always there. I don't know. I like, even now. I think it. Yeah, I think it. It does. It does teach us. It does. it opens us up to others. I sorry, I'm kind of emotional. It helps. I think it does change you. I mean, that's the only way I can see it. It changes you a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your questions, JJS. And for your insight. Um, Whew, man, yeah, I feel like I'm feeling you feeling things, Ursula, as well. So thanks for taking this ride with us. It's always a roller coaster. Um, Bucky Joe, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Ursula, for coming on and sharing your experiences and your story. Um, I think if I heard correctly earlier in your story, you might have mentioned that you've had a couple downloads, and and I'm curious if that's so. Did they happen around events or times when you were questioning things, or what were the circumstances around the time that you had the downloads? And what form did the downloads come in? And if there's any parts of what messages you received that you feel comfortable sharing, I would be curious on those two.
I remember one really vividly. It's where I had seen them in the daylight, and I was sitting there with my kid's dad at that time, and I got like a headache. And when I was telling him that I was getting this big headache out of nowhere, and I just remember these images in my head. And so like I had to explain to him, and he didn't understand. So we weren't like together, but like we were already just I he was the only other person I could explain to right then at that time that these things were showing me images that I couldn't quite grasp. I think that's the word. Like it was showing me like they were part of these orbs. Were not like I felt they weren't my sister, or they weren't like maybe they were humans that didn't have maybe future us. I think I've heard others say that too. Like they're trying to show us like they don't exist in physical form anymore, but they go across all like different universes. I think that was what it said. I'm not even sure what it means. I To this day I still don't understand what it was trying to tell me. So that was one of them. Another was the other one was a little vague, but this was the more vivid one that I remember really clearly. So if is that a download? I don't know.
You mentioned headaches. Do you have migraines, or are they just like pain in the head?
No, that was just that time. I don't think it was a migraine, but it was a headache. We did have several when my daughter and I encountered the one outside our house. We did get big headaches from that, and it didn't go away for a few days. But I've heard from others who have experienced triangular crafts or other UFOs that there might be radiation from there. So that could give, I think they said, a headache. So that kind of scared me. It really did scare me that this thing was above our town, that we don't know if these things if that is radiation, then that's even more terrifying. Like what are these things, and why are they above our town? In fact, I know that it wasn't a hallucination because we don't do drugs. And my dad also, when I told him what we saw, he said that there was a sighting in 1985 or 1984 in our town. A big He didn't ever say what kind of craft it was. He said it was, and this was only recently. He said, that big UFO that we saw in our town, in 1984 that turned off all of our town lights, and then it was playing with our lights, basically, our town's lights. It was turning it off and it was turning it on, and, he said that, that was a triangular craft. So these things have been coming to our town all these years is what I'm beginning to, when the more that I question, the more that I'm thinking that there's something here that they must want. And the scary thing about it is, does this involve indigenous women or children? And that part, I don't even want to go there because that's a whole other topic that people are not comfortable talking about, that I'm not really totally comfortable speaking about because I still don't know. But it's terrifying if they are coming here to take people. I know there's a uranium site outside of our town. I'm thinking hopefully that maybe they're there for that. But that's, because we see a lot of things here. I post videos, and they're not clear. Yes, some of them are not clear, but so what are these things? Are they from somewhere else? Are they that's always the question, right? Um, yeah, I think I veered off topic, but yeah, that's what's been happening. So these things have been coming here, I think, for a while.
Thank you for the answers. And it does make you wonder, like, if you're receiving messages or downloads and having visions, is there more below the surface of what you perceive that, if you saw everything, maybe it would make sense, or, but the question I ask is like, why sometimes are these messages vague? And why does, if it's a communication, why can't it be clear? But thank you again.
Thank you.
Is anybody speaking right now?
No.
Okay, good. I have a lot of connectivity issues here, so always good to check before I go plowing over someone. Um, all right. Well, this whole going by order of hands thing, there's really something to it. Uh, VC Smart, I believe you had your hand up first, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Go ahead.
Hi,
Mike's
yeah,
yours.
just a real quick, Ursula. It's been very fascinating to listen to your story with other family members, experiencing things that I didn't quite realize, like your father being able to see UFOs and remembering things all the way back to 85. So that's got to offer you some comfort anyway. At least your father shares these experiences with you. And I guess maybe some other people in your family circle, besides just your immediate, children. Is there somebody else that you've sort of communicated with, either a friend or your beside your father or something about this, where you sort of feel comfortable talking about this and you're on the same wavelengths, or is there some other interpretation that you might share that they experience that's maybe different or, worth mentioning that you haven't said already so far? Thanks.
Um, Thank you for asking that. My parents, they were coming back from Flagstaff, I think about 5 days ago, and my dad said he woke up my mom. It was about around 11 p.m., and they saw a big green UFO. So I think that, like, my parents probably see it maybe more than I do, but they don't really talk about. They'll bring it up like all of a sudden, like, "Oh yeah, we saw a UFO." So, even just going back to my dad, he saw a UFO the same week that Travis Walton saw his UFO. My dad lives like 3 hours away from Payson. He saw this UFO with all of his cousins. There was a bunch of kids. He said they were outside at sunset one evening, and he said all of a sudden there was this red UFO. I don't know. He said it was he explained it, and he said the weirdest thing happened was that all of his cousins froze in place except for him. He said he was looking around at all his cousin, they kinda stood frozen, like, and then he said he remembers he was the only one moving, and he said he looked at his watch, and he said his watch had stopped, it literally stopped, so, and he said that he was kind of, like, wondering why he was the only one that was able to move, and, I asked him, I said, "Dad, when did you have your experience?" And he said the date, and I was, like, looking at the dates, and I was really shocked. I was like, "You know," I said, "Travis Walton had his experience the same week you did," and he was really shocked. Um, so, yeah, he was the one that told me, like, almost, like, maybe 15 years ago, he said he was looking through his binoculars. He saw a UFO in his binoculars, and he said he was as he was watching it, he said it turned into a plane. I remember him coming running back, and he called me and he's like, "You have to get up here." He's like, "These UFOs, they shapeshift." And I kind of like laughed at the time, but not knowing I remember him saying that, like these things shapeshift, and he was always telling me things even then, he said that he remembers that some UFOs are they look small, but he said they were actually bigger. And then this just goes back into what a lot of people are saying now. I mean, even I think they've been saying for a long time, but he doesn't read UFO books or doesn't watch anything on UFOs. So he also saw the same UFO that Terry Lovelace saw. I remember I told him to watch it, and my mom said, "Oh, your dad's jumping around the room." He said he saw the same UFO that man saw. So, my dad is the one that I think he sees these things a lot more than I do, and so yeah, he has his own stories, and I won't really get into that. But yeah, so my parents see these things. My dad, I think he always has, and he doesn't really bring them up. He did call me one year. He said, "I'm coming over near Page. I'm gonna go over the mountain." And he said, "There's something following me. Uh, it's it's right behind me." He said, "If I lose service, that means I don't know." He's like, "I don't know if I should be scared." He said, "I don't feel scared, but there's my it's doing weird things in my vehicle." And then the phone went out, and I was like panicking. I was like, "Oh my God, did they take my dad?" And then he called an hour later, and he's like, "I'm okay, but I don't know what happened." So that's one of his many stories, and that just goes back into one of my stories that happened, I think, like 2 months ago. My mom called me. She said, "We got into an accident. You be careful." I was leaving Flagstaff. She said, "Somebody almost hit your sister too. They were going the wrong way on the interstate, and your sister almost got into an accident." She said, "Be careful going home." And she had to tell me this as I was driving back at like 11 o'clock at night. So as we're going back, we were halfway home, and we started seeing like lights in the sky. So my daughter, she started recording them for me as I was driving. And I said, "Okay, let's park near the dinosaur tracks." And so we went up the hill, and we were gonna park at a certain area. And I was like, "No, this part doesn't feel safe enough." So then I went like 5 miles down the road to get closer to whatever these lights were. I mean, let me tell you that we were already seeing them, so I was thinking, "Okay, we'll see them closer, maybe then I will record them." So we didn't park in our original spot. As we got to that other place, we started seeing these lights. They were, like, close to us. It looked like they were close, and one of them flashed really bright, and in our vehicle, the everything went kind of haywire. And then my daughter was like, "Mom, I don't feel right about this. Let's go." So I was like, "Okay, we're gonna go. Let's just." She was really scared at that point. We look, and all of a sudden, there's like all these police driving by, and then my son-in-law jumps out, and he's like, "Whoa, you guys, where we were gonna park, that's where there's a big accident." That's just so weird and random that my parents and my sister, and then now, like, where we were supposed to park, a big accident had occurred. And then there was this big light that we saw, a big flash of something where it did something to our vehicle. I don't know if that was a good thing. I didn't feel scared, but my daughter got really scared and we went home and we were shaken. That same night, she decided to go to the laundromat. She said she came back and our door was wide open. So she thinks that something came to visit us. I don't know who or what.
Yeah, that's interesting. And just one last thing, curious along the family lineage thing, because that's quite interesting, the stories from your parents. But have you asked them have they ever asked their parents or their, lineage where they have some stories from them that have been handed down to them? Just curious along those lines.
Yeah, I remember my grandpa, he was a medicine man. He would tell us about these red balls of light that would float over on the mountains near him. And he said that these red balls of light are not good. He would tell us that even as small as I was, I understood that maybe he was talking about maybe UFOs. So that was one of the ones that I remember him talking about. I only remembered these recently.
Yeah, that'll be nice. Ask your parents too, maybe sometime what they may have been told. That might be interesting just for you to learn, if you don't know that already.
I will ask them. Thank you.
Great questions, VC Smart. I know it's a topic on many of our minds. All right, well, I'm going to just go ahead and say that I am an early bird, so I've got about maybe 10 more minutes in me before I start to get silly. And a silly host is not a coherent host. Anyway, I want to say thanks to everybody who's asked questions so far. You've all been so respectful, um, to everybody in the room, and to each other. So thank you for that. LM, you've had your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody that has shared every single portion of what they said. And I need us to understand that we've all experienced things that we can't necessarily equate to modern understanding. I do have something to say about this, actually, several things. And I want to start with precognition absolutely is real, it exists. For anybody that believes that it doesn't, I'm sorry that you have that position, but it does. I know this for fact because I have experienced it, I have witnessed it, and I've been part of it. It absolutely exists. So that being said, and I'm not a special person, um, it exists for all human beings. So if you don't believe in it, you're trying to carve out something that you don't want to believe in, and you're actively pushing away something that you're entitled to. And I do mean you're entitled to it. You absolutely are. It does exist. It does happen. It is real. It absolutely is real. There is enough evidence in the history of our consciousness to show that precognition is a real thing. So I want to separate that from the understanding versus the people that are like, no, I haven't experienced it yet. It's not that you haven't experienced it yet. Maybe you haven't experienced it yet. What it means is it's not specific to you. It's specific to the whole of humanity, and you're just waiting your time to be a part of it. It will happen. It absolutely will happen. It's inherent to our ideology. It's inherent to our being. Now, so the next question is, what is it? What is this precognition? What is it? It's survival. It's understanding. It's there's something out there that knows that we're vulnerable and they're giving us some form of way to survive. We are not alone. We are absolutely not alone. And there are other entities that are giving us survival cues. And I mean this. I'm dead serious, like dead to fucking right serious about this. There are other entities out there that are giving us survival clues. And that is a portion of what we call precognizance. There are NHI out there. We are not alone in this existence. We are not alone in our fundamental understanding of consciousness and who we are. There are other entities out there that are not necessarily doing the job for us, but they're giving us hints and clues. And that is precognition. That is what is happening. That is how they're communicating with us. And I hope everybody understands this. We are not alone. By that simple measure, by the fact that anybody can see something happens before it happens, we are not alone. There is something greater out there that understands something and it's communicating with us in that aspect. We need to realize that, focus on that, and maybe it's not our primary focus. We don't need to be like, obsessed with it throughout our daily lifetime, but at the same time, we need to acknowledge this. And we don't need to acknowledge it like it's a gift. It's something that we receive because we're worthy of receiving it. They're telling us because we're important. They're telling us because we matter. We're included in this whole consciousness. We matter. We do matter in the whole grand scheme of what's going on. We're not the end all be all. We're not the best and we're not the worst, but we are being communicated with. And precognition is absolutely fact present. That people are experiencing this, it's fact present. We are not alone. And if we can start there, if everybody can be really honest with each other, and if we can start there, then we can start to build this understanding of what the cosmos and our reality is. Now, we're not going to figure it out overnight. We're not going to jump from misunderstanding to ultimate understanding. There has to be a progression to this, right? There simply has to be experience, understanding, consciousness, up and down, left and right. There has to be a consciousness understanding of this. What we're dealing with is that we do have guardians over us. We do. And I'm not getting into the spiritual aspect of this. I'm not going to go into, Christianity or Judaism. What I'm saying is, yes, they do exist. They are here and they do communicate with us. And yes, we do receive it and we understand it to a certain degree. And that's where we have to start, in my opinion. So thank you for allowing me the time to talk, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Um, you touched on some good points there. I think that it resonates with many of us that are right here in this room with you. Space with you? Space, I guess we're calling it space. All right, Ursula, I'm gonna go ahead and start kind of wrapping it up here, but I want to know kind of a two-part, if there's anything you'd like to add to LM's comment, and then the second part of that would be, is there anything that you would like to address the space about in the future listeners of the recording that will be out there as well? Anything that you feel is pertinent to share with us at this time, or anything that just kind of pops up in your gut? Any comments about LM, then any closing comments you might have. Thanks, Ursula.
Okay, yeah, like what he said, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I feel like they are here. They have always been here. And there's some things in our ceremonies that I can't really speak about, but I think Christian, I've told, he knows what I'm talking about, that there is a presence here. There are some that are good, there's some that are bad, and they've always been here. I think some of them, they share knowledge through healing, through maybe even ceremonies. I won't really go into that because we're at the end of this space, but there's a lot of things I've been questioning lately, and these things I'll just cut it short. Yeah, like what he said, I believe that. And I just really want to thank everyone that, came here to listen to my little story. I want to cry, but I won't. It really means a lot to me that to every single one of you that showed up. I thought there was gonna be like 3 people. I was like, it doesn't seem like my story, would I didn't think anyone would show up. So it means a lot to me, all of you. And I want to say thank you to Helene for letting me speak. If anyone has any questions, after, I'm always here to answer questions. And I don't know much. I'm just experiencing these as they come. I think I have more questions than anything. I don't think any of us have answers, and that's what we're trying to seek. So when people talk about disclosure, I think that a lot of us have been experiencing things since we were children, and we're still trying to find the answers. And to be honest, if disclosure never happens the way that we want it, we all have our own truths. We all have our own stories. And that's what is fucking awesome about these spaces, like I keep saying, because there's so many of us that are coming together. I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much.
Ursula, I mean, I know I'm not the only one who just sent you that thank you back, that sentiment. I know a lot of people are feeling that right now. Gosh, I feel like I have to have you on for like a part 2 and 3 and 4. I don't. I feel like we just barely brushed the surface. So maybe if you're open to that sometime down the line. And how do we get your dad on a space? how do
Yeah,
we get him on here?
I did tell him that. I mentioned it to him like 3 days ago, and he was smiling. So I think that's a good sign. He has so many experiences of even cryptids of some kind. And I don't know if you know that I did happen to post something that happened a few nights ago here outside my home. But that's for another time. But yeah, so I am trying to get him into space, yeah. But yeah, I just want to thank everyone again.
Absolutely. Well, maybe that'll be a part 2 or part 3 thing. Christian, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to give a round of applause to Ursula. That's it. I love you, sister. You're an incredible human being. Keep doing what you're doing. Also, Logan's going to throw up a space after this. Ursula, if you wanted to keep going for a little while too. I know we're kind of in the flow, so just wanted to let you know that also. Thank you, Illumination, for holding this space for everybody and for everybody being here too.
Thank you. Love you too, brother. Thank you for holding the space beforehand to get me out of being nervous as well. You, Logan, and Paul. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can I say something? Not to interject, but can I say something really?
Who is this? LM? I can't see who's speaking. My screen
Yeah,
glitching.
yeah. We're of the source, and the source knows a lot of things, and so it's not a surprise that from time to time we cut across certain knowings of what's going on. Whether or not we turn that into effective, like what we do with what we know, that's a whole different discussion. That's a whole different conversation. What you know and how you act with it, but inherently, we are of the source and we are absolutely part of the knowing of consciousness. And it's why we have these moments of precognition and understanding. It's why our consciousness begs to be proffered and put forward even more. Like we're greater, like we're capable of greater things. We've been challenged. It's what we do. But the information that we're receiving from the cosmos, or from, if you want to call it God, if you want to call it religion, if you want to call it just natural settings, whatever it is, we are of the source, and we do know that this exists. And if you refute it, That's okay. That's fine. I don't want to argue with you. I know for a fact, personally, I know for a fact that I have had precognitive understandings of what didn't happen and then did happen. So there's something to it. I'm not going to claim what it is, but we are of the source, and we have like it's just part of the maturation of what we are and how we're growing.
That sounds like I might have to have you on sometime. LM, sounds like you got some stuff to share. Um, all right, y'all. Yeah, my brain is starting to turn to mush. I feel it. So I'm gonna get out of here before I make a fool of myself. It sounds like there's an after party going on in I think that was actually, how about you? You can put that in the comments. I forget who you said that was hosting that. Maybe Logan. But yeah, you're all welcome to join my space, my strange space, next Friday. My guest will be Fringe. So yeah, if you want to hear more strange stories from the source, hop on in. I'm actually not going to quote the time on that one. I need to do some research. I think we're about to go through a time zone change here. And after the mental gymnastics that Ursula and I went through today, I'm going to go ahead and just check all my boxes and all of my places. Yeah, I'm just making up metaphors now. All right, everybody, thanks so much for being here. Get some good sleep tonight. You know, don't let the flickering screens keep you up too late. And I'll see you next week. Take care.